This is our first monthly webinar of 2024. We plan to do one with either partners or with SYSPRO each month, showcasing different modules and products that sit around the SYSPRO environment. Just before we kick off properly, a little bit of housekeeping. Firstly, this session is being recorded, so that recording will be made available to you to download afterwards, so you can share it with your colleagues if you'd like, if they're unable to make it, so that is available for you. Whilst the presentations are going on, if you wouldn't mind all staying on mute, please, it'd be really appreciated. It just makes things a little bit easier. But please feel free to put questions in the Q&A section, or if there's any issues, just put them in the chat, and I'll try and get to them as we go along. And we also have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar as well, where everybody will be able to ask any questions they may have once they've seen the presentations. Okay, Garrett, can you just move on to the next slide for me? Thank you. So many of you already know me, but for those that don't, I'm Andrew Longland. I'm the Managing Director of HIT Technology. We're an established SYSPRO partner in the UK. We're hosting this webinar today, but I'm also joined by a couple of colleagues from riteSoft in the United States. Someone's mic is on. There we go. So riteSoft, as I said, are the authors of riteSCAN. They are the leading mobile warehouse solution for SYSPRO. And I was going to introduce Ryan Winnicky, who is the president of riteSoft. Unfortunately, he's unwell today, so won't be joining us. But we do have Garrett Lenzen with us, so he'll be taking all of Ryan's responsibilities throughout this webinar. Ryan, as I said, is the president of riteSoft. Garrett is an implementation specialist and account manager. And now Garrett works with over 250 customers across the globe each year, answering technical questions and helping them implement riteSCAN effectively. So he's quite some expert. So we'll get some great value out of Garrett. Sorry. Together, Garrett and I will take you through some of the features and benefits of riteSCAN and how it can help transform your warehouse operations. And during the webinar, we'll also show you some real life use cases of riteSCAN, to give, as well as giving you a demo of the latest version. We'll make things as interactive as possible as we go along, and I've got a couple of polls to participate in along the way, and the Q&A session at the end. So a bit of background about HIT Technology. We're an established and independent business operating and owned in the UK. We've been trading for 15 years, and we specialise in providing support, consultancy, implementation services for SYSPRO, which is a world-leading ERP solution, which many of you already use, specifically for manufacturers and distributors. We have a team of 16, which includes a mix of functional consultants, technical consultants, support analysts, service delivery and project delivery managers. And we're a premium solutions partner with SYSPRO. And that is the core of our business. But we also partner with other solutions, such as riteSCAN, that complement SYSPRO and add value to what our customers have in their ERP environment. We've been working with riteSoft for over 10 years now and have implemented riteSCAN into many manufacturing and distribution businesses across the UK and Ireland. So why would you choose HIT Technology to work with for your SYSPRO and riteSCAN requirements? Firstly, we have a huge amount of experience of both these products within the team. Many of our staff have come from customer backgrounds, which means they've been at the coalface and learned how these products work in real life scenarios. Secondly, we offer a consultative approach to everything we do. We're not just in the business of just selling a piece of software because it's the latest new shiny thing to be released to the market. We actually work with our customers to understand their requirements and then make a recommendation on the best solutions for their needs. Thirdly, the entire team is made up of practical problem solvers. We find cost-effective solutions to our customers' problems. Finally, as mentioned earlier, many of our team have come from within the manufacturing and engineering industries, which means that we have real world experience of multiple vertical sectors rather than just being software experts. Now, many of you on this webinar have worked with us before or are currently working with us, and I'd like to think that you've all experienced the benefits of what I've described there. Obviously, if you have different experiences, I'd also love to know that, but hopefully that's the experience you've had. But that's enough about HIT technology for now. Let's get some interaction going. I'm going to launch the first of our 2 polls. Let's get that going. Hopefully it'll appear on your screens. What we'd like to know is, which of the following business challenges are you planning to address in the next 12 months? And you'll see there's multiple options there. You can tick as many of them as you like. People are voting. Okay, so we've had, sorry, Garrett.
I was just going to say, we see some interesting trends just as polls are coming in. A common theme being warehouse space and organization. I know space is always at a premium, and how can you properly organize your facility to optimize and become more efficient with the space that you do have, whether if it's layout, if it's racking, if it's palletization, how do you get more efficient with that? And just general overall efficiencies and visibility is also a common theme of what people are looking to achieve here within the next year. How do you get more in depth with what you're seeing from an inventory perspective? How can you see that a little bit more efficient, and ultimately who is also seeing it? So I see that being quite the common theme, and you're not alone. That is definitely something that we're seeing as an industry overall, as we continue to grow and evolutionize with the different solutions that are out there. So definitely a common theme, and you're not alone out there, and there's plenty of solutions out there to help you go through and achieve those goals. Anything to add to that, Andrew?
No, other than I think there's quite an even split there looking at things. So clearly there's a lot to be done across the base there. I think someone's just voted and pipped in with order picking accuracy being number 1 now, which I know is something that riteSCAN certainly helps massively with.
Absolutely.
I can see, sorry, before we carry on, Claire, you've got your hand up. Is there something you needed to say?
I've just put a message on. We can't see a poll.
Did it not come up?
It just says poll 1 business challenges. It's just a static screen with a big question mark on it. Okay,
a poll should have come up. I know most people have been able to see it. We'll see what happens with poll 2, shall we? Thanks, Claire.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, moving on to poll 2, but thank you for submitting your answers on that one. That was actually some useful insights there. Let me launch poll 2, and similarly, we have a number of different options here, but this time we're asking, what specific warehouse operations would you like to improve in the next 12 months? And again, you can tick all that may apply to you, and I'm hoping, Claire, you can see it this time.
No, nothing.
Sorry.
So still the main screen where it says poll 2, warehouse operations, a big green circle with a question mark in it. It's probably our IT support. They're absolutely rubbish. I need to have words with them.
Okay, we've got 7 responses so far on that one. Oh, 11.
So just a common theme that I'm seeing here, Andrew, is the picking and receiving. Falling back to even poll 2 is a common scenario that everyone's looking to try to improve upon for the next year, as well as just general barcode labeling and printing is that second highest option. So those are two core areas that riteSCAN can help facilitate in. So we'll definitely be covering how riteSCAN helps with that throughout today's session. So it's really good information to see, you know, what are your needs, and then how do we also address those needs going forward.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Again, very useful to understand what your priorities are and what your issues are that we can help address. So it's now time to move on to riteSCAN itself. For this, I'm going to hand over to Garrett, who's going to talk to you about what riteSCAN is and how it can help your business.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for that, Andrew. And it's great to be here in front of everyone. We cherish the opportunity to work with the HIT technology team on both the SYSPRO and the riteSCAN side of the house. So look forward to it, and hopefully we provide you some really cool information today and leave you wanting more. So some of the key things that we're looking for from riteSCAN, right? We're looking to how do we unleash the power of mobility? So being mobile out there on the warehouse floor is going to provide you with a variety of different things. Number one is accuracy, right? We're really being focused on how accurate can we be with the inventory. Now that comes from, is it manually, me typing it into a device and having it real life right there in front of me? Is it going to be scanning a barcode? Is it going to be doing the movement as we're there? So a lot of things, how are we bringing the accuracy into riteSCAN, into the everyday process that user's going through? And we also have the efficiency, right? We're looking to be able to do things as fast as we possibly can while still maintaining that accuracy, but yet doing the same amount of work with maybe less actual employees out there on the floor that you might have had that are doing the manual paper processes or the entry into your ERP system. So being as efficient as possible. Then overall, with the visibility of the solution, being able to bring all of the data that is ultimately collected through the different transactions and be able to report against them, or have that real-time visibility into what you're seeing from an inventory level perspective, and giving that to all of the users that are on the floor or that you want to provide with that capability. So constantly having visibility into what's actually happening and how much you actually have from an inventory perspective is key with this solution. Now we're talking integration. So how does riteSCAN ultimately work with your SYSPRO environment, right? That's one of the key things that we're focusing on. So everything that you see with riteSCAN today, especially, is going to be real time. So real-time data being transferred from SYSPRO to riteSCAN and riteSCAN back to SYSPRO. There's no data lag that's going to happen of, I did this transaction and now I know I have to wait 4 hours for it to do the post into SYSPRO. You won't ever see that. So as soon as I do an inventory query, I will be able to see how much of that inventory we actually have, which does tie back to that visibility aspect of the solution. And reliability. The biggest thing, as we are a global ISV with SYSPRO, and I can't stress that enough, as a global ISV, just like HIT or HIT Technologies is a premium solution partner, we work very closely with HIT Technology and SYSPRO to provide that solution, that integration that's going to work seamlessly for you into the future, right? So always providing you with that reliable integration that's never going to break. Then that compatibility. I know as we are all here looking at how do we future-proof our business, we're looking for compatibility. How can this be compatible with SYSPRO 6.1, SYSPRO 7, SYSPRO 8, and any of those SYSPRO versions that are coming in the near future? How does riteSCAN very easily work with all of those different versions? So that's one of our core competencies and focus for our application. So what's new? So right now we're looking at riteSCAN 8 is a fairly new solution that we have provided, and it's something that we've completely overhauled or revamped the old riteSCAN 6 solution that some of you may be familiar with today. So some of the key feature sets that you're going to see as part of this solution are going to be your order management aspects. So being able to manage sales orders, which is a big thing. Amazon has changed the world, and ultimately, how do you go about allocating what items should be picked, who should be picking this item, how much time is being tracked against the sales order. So we've brought some of those aspects into riteSCAN via order management, allowing you to assign sales orders or line items of a sales order to a given user or department of users to be able to go through and pick. And then you get the tracking aspects of, well, how much time did it ultimately take to pick that same sales order? Some of the simplified directed picking, being able to tell them where to go based off of certain suggestions, whether if it's a bin location, defaulted bin, or say a suggested lot based off of FIFO or FEFO practices. So helping you say, what should I be picking as a user depending upon my picking statuses within SYSPRO? Now, some of the other nice to have things that are coming along with this is being able to batch orders within that picking. So multiple sales orders can be assigned upon order management. You have your document printing, so being able to print a picking slip, a packing slip, to tell, all right, I put this into this box, what is within this box, right? We still need some of those paperwork aspects to be able to send to that customer so they know this is what's in this box. Some of the task assignments and work to lists. So being able to assign tasks for a user to do, whether if that is going to be replenishments or receipts or counts, whatever it might be, being able to assign a user to do a function within the system and then report against it. Then we also have some of the forms, right? So capturing form or additional data, right? Everyone likes data nowadays. We're trying to capture how much can we do with this transaction, right? So whether if it's going to be information against the truck, if you're PO receiving, the delivery number, additional data that is important to your business, being able to bring that into the system and ultimately bring it back to your system of record, which is SYSPRO. Now, some of the nice things is pack and ship. So packing items into boxes, being able to collect the DIM information against what is being packed. So again, just really sticking to the theme, more data, more visibility coming back into your systems. Now, some of the really key features from a work in progress perspective that we've introduced is going to be different kiosks modes. So being for labor track. So being able to put labor tracking in different locations throughout the facility to make it easier for users to access. So going through and say, I'm going to enter my time here at this kiosk. I don't have to necessarily be at a computer. I can just go to that nearest location and enter my time. Now, one big thing that's fairly new to the SYSPRO market overall within the last couple of years is something called riteTime. riteTime is a larger scale time tracking solution that allows you to do a variety of different things, whether if that is tracking time clock punches for payroll purposes, being able to track labor punches for labor management of how much time is being spent against your job and operation and integrated back into SYSPRO, just like riteSCAN is, while also giving you some really cool features on how do you go about and schedule what are these employees supposed to be working on for a given time period. So take a calendar view or just a drag and drop view, and we're going to start to schedule our users or departments onto what job and operation that they are going to track their time for, allowing you to have more effective planning going into the future, while yet again collecting all this data, bringing it back to report against, and integrating it to your ERP, which is SYSPRO. Now, some of the key things that are coming within 2024 is landed cost tracking. That's a big thing that we see, especially if you're near the ocean or having a lot of overseas shipments. So that's something that you should keep your eyes out for 2024, as along with the native Android app, which just helps for different scenarios, right? Every organization's a little bit different on their level of infrastructure, the amount of transactions that they're doing. So we like to accommodate for everybody, right? So the different scenarios that you might see, that Android app allows you to have a little bit more flexibility per your device. And there's a lot of additional shipping enhancements. Shipping is one of those things that we see into 2024 and beyond as being one of those gaps that are in the market. So how do we provide that gap filler on the solutions to help ease your shipping process and get this product out of your facility in an easier method? All right, Andrew, back over to you.
Thanks for that, Garrett. So the next thing that I'd like to do is give you some real life examples of where riteSCAN's actually already in use. And this first example is a great UK company that I'm proud to say we have a long-standing relationship with as a customer, and that's Millbrook Beds. I'm also really pleased to see we actually have someone here on this webinar today from Millbrook Beds, so that's even better. They're going to get to hear about themselves. So Millbrook Beds was founded in 1946 and manufactures really high quality mattresses, divan bases, headboards and other furniture items. All the products are carefully handcrafted using many traditional methods as well as some more advanced modern techniques as well to produce some quite stunning pieces of furniture for homes and hotels. Now, Millbrook Beds have been using SYSPRO and riteSCAN for well over 10 years, and they've both become integral to the successful operations of the business. Traditionally, the biggest market for Millbrook has been the UK, but exports now account for quite a large amount of the business as well. Now, just to give you a bit of a feel for the scale of the operation at Millbrook Beds, they produce 800 mattresses per day, which is about one mattress every 45 seconds. They produce 200 divan bases per day, which is about one every 3 minutes, and 60 headboards a day, and that's about one every 10 minutes. So it gives you a bit of a feel for the scale. Just to add to that, some really interesting facts that I've learned over the years about Millbrook Beds. An average of 1.2 million springs leave that factory every day. An average of 15 miles of fabric is used every week. And in 1 year, their high volume mattress production line repurposed the equivalent of 8 million plastic bottles. So there's quite some operation going on there. And I think they're quite impressive statistics. But what does that mean in terms of SYSPRO and riteSCAN? That's what we're here to talk about. Well, over the last 12 months, the following transactions have been completed using riteSCAN at Millbrook Beds. Over 6,000 purchase order receipts, over 28,000 warehouse and bin transfers, over 500,000 material issues to jobs, and over 60,000 job receipts have been completed. All of that through riteSCAN and talking to SYSPRO. So that just goes to show that a modern solution like riteSCAN has the capability of dealing with high volume transaction environments, even when the product is handcrafted. And so I'll now hand back over to Garrett, who's going to give you some background on a couple of US customers that use riteSCAN.
No, thank you, Andrew. That was some really cool information to see on Millbrook. It's fantastic. 800 mattresses a day is a crazy number. So just a couple customer stories that we have from here over on this side of the pond. So one of the customers that we're speaking about is an extremely large food and beverage manufacturer. Now, one of the key things that they do to help provide some of the efficiencies within their organization is leveraging the use of what we call pallets, or it might be more industry term license plates. Now, what they're using pallets for is to be able to track large quantities of food products as they move through the different phases of operation. So if that's going to be starting at purchase order receipts for their raw material, if it's going to be issuing full pallet quantities into production, and then finally receiving the finished goods onto those full pallets and then staging them to be shipped. Now, what the pallet ultimately allows them to do is get a granular view as to what inventory exists within that specific pallet. So it's just a unique identifier to that group of product. And what it also allows you to do if you're on the food and beverage side is track your lots more efficiently. You're scanning one barcode for all of the product that exists on that pallet instead of one for each case or box or each that might exist on that pallet. And it knows all of the data, which is extremely important. Now, what we've done as part of the pallet tracking system is your lots on hold, right? Lot traceability is huge within that food and beverage. So being able to place unique pallets on hold for different quarantine or QA aspects. So really having that visibility via a pallet level versus an individual product level gives them the granularity and the efficiency that they need. Now, the second thing that they do to this is part of their QA processes is being able to use tasks and forms. So what they do with the tasks is to help the replenishment aspect. So being able to move product from, say, your overstock racking to your what they would call a pick-based location, and assigning that to a user to go and do. Or if they needed to pull a surprise pallet for Q&A, they're going to go and say, here's the task that you need to perform. Now, the last piece to this is the forms, right? So we're talking, how can we do some extremely light quality aspects and collect that additional data of what's happening with this inventory? So riteSCAN has the ability called forms, and if you're lucky, you might see it today. So you'll see additional fields to apply different pieces of data. And now it's free form. So I can choose as my administrator to ask those key pieces of data. Is it going to be the size of the product? Is it the weight of the product? The color? Is it a yes or no? Did it pass this sort of inspection that you're going through? All of that information then gets brought back into riteSCAN for you to further report against it, which is giving them, again, that visibility as to what are the employees doing out there on the floor? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they collecting the necessary information? All that we have a successful running operation, and inventory is maintaining that level of accuracy that we expect. Now, moving on to the second one, this is a company called Yeti Cycles. So they're a boutique bike manufacturer here in the US. And one of their key areas of use of riteSCAN is on the production side. So the issuing of material and the receiving of material. Now, what we like to do as RiteSoft, HIT Technologies, and the customer is ultimately a partnership, right? We're looking to produce a solution that is going to work well for you, improve your business in all the key aspects. So we work directly with Yeti Cycles and Amanda to go through and say, what's going to make your life easier with this solution? So they provided us with feedback as to how we could go about doing this. So they were looking for an ability to assign jobs to be picked, right? So to go and issue that raw material out of their inventory for production. So we work directly with them to build that module out or that feature set out and provided it to them to provide them with that overall functionality that they were ultimately missing before, which has led to some extreme efficiency that they're experiencing out there on the floor. So something to just keep in mind when you're thinking of this solution and the organizations as a whole is partnerships, right? Providing that solution overall. All right, now over to the fun stuff. So we're going to provide a demonstration of riteSCAN. So let me pull up my system here. So we'll sign in and we will get started doing a demonstration of riteSCAN. So if you are a current existing riteSCAN customer today, you might see some changes, right? So just expect that as we go through. This is a little bit different. We're really focusing on how do we bring in that new functionality? How do we bring in the new technology that we're seeing in the space that's going to make your life from an IT perspective, infrastructure, and a user perspective much, much easier. So I'm going to select this link on my desktop, and you're going to see a few different things as we go through today. So I'm going to follow the flow of material, right? So we're going to start with PO receipts as material comes in. We're going to manage that raw material inventory. We're going to issue, we're going to receipt, then finished goods. And finally, we're going to pick the finished goods for a sales order. So now, as I do go through, there's a key couple things that I need you to note of what you're seeing on screen. Is riteSCAN is running in a Google Chrome browser. So it's no longer necessarily based off of the operating system of your device or your PC, right? So it's being able to deploy it in a much easier method. You select the link on your desktop or you go to the URL and you type it in and you're able to access the application. Now, one of the key things that this provides to you from an ease of use perspective is the devices. So I have a few different devices here in front of me today, like this one is a common MC or Zebra device, and I can run this on that Google Chrome browser on my device specifically. So the key to this is that when I run an update on the server side components, it automatically updates the device. I no longer have to go to each specific device and perform an upgrade, which is a huge time saving, all depending upon the number of devices that you have. I've had plenty of experience with those older Windows CE, Windows mobile devices that are now sunsetted, that you have to go to each device and perform an upgrade, which can be time consuming and can give you quite the headache. So, few things as we go through. Again, you're going to see a couple different messages or even errors on screen, right? Focusing on that real-time feedback with riteSCAN is everything that you see me do is real-time here on screen. So if I get a green post successful message, that means the post was successful to SYSPRO. If I get a white dialog box that appears, it's a riteSCAN warning to guide users on what they can and cannot do. And then if we get a red error message, again, that means the post was ineffective. It didn't work because of a certain error or permission that we have set up from a SYSPRO to riteSCAN. So just keeping that in mind as we go. So I'm going to start here with PO receipt, and you will see this on a variety of different devices. Being that it's web-based, it's going to allow you to go through and fit to the screen that you're deploying it to, whether if that is my handheld device, whether if it's my PC, or if it's my tablet, right? If I have different devices out there, it really gives you that ultimate flexibility. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do our first PO receipt. Our truck has hit the dock, right? So now we have to go in and receive all the product that is coming in off this specific truck. So we're going to have a document, some sort of paperwork that is saying what is coming in on this truck. It should have your purchase order number on it. Now, a variety of different methods is I could go through and select out of this list what is that purchase order I'm going to receive into. I can type the PO number, or I could scan the PO number if barcodes are available. So just flexibility based off of your environment and what you have available to you. So for me, I'm going to have a barcode. I like to scan as much as possible because that's where your accuracy comes from. I don't always want to rely upon a user keying things in because that's where you can get some inaccuracy. So now what I see here is I selected my purchase order number of 1001. And 1001 is now displaying the 2 line items that need to be received in off of this specific delivery. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and visibly see the product come off. We're going to offload it. We're going to verify that the product is there. And if there's a barcode available from your supplier, you could leverage that. If not, you can select out of the list, or again, you can type into the stock code field there, as you see. I have barcodes available, right? So I'm going to scan as much as possible. So I'm going to scan my barcode for A112, right? And now it brings up my dialog for me to go through and apply my additional information that's required from the transaction. Now you can see this is very similar to the data that you have to apply in SYSPRO if you're doing your PO receipt within SYSPRO, right? Because SYSPRO is your system of record and all of the data flows into riteSCAN. So what we're going to do is I visibly counted a quantity of 100. So I can type in my quantity, which is a common theme. You should be typing in your quantity or applying it. So that way you are as accurate as possible, and it will catch if you're over or under your required quantity. Now we have our warehouse and bin. Warehouse comes against the header, and I as a user can apply the bin location. If I am multiple bin, I apply the bin location that this is being received into. I have my note, I have my reference. So again, those same note and reference fields you would see within SYSPRO, your supplier note, manufacturing date. Now, again, as I was mentioning forms and capturing that additional data, this is an example of a custom form. Custom forms are developed in SYSPRO. You create them in SYSPRO and they flow all the way through to riteSCAN. So I just want to know, when was this product actually manufactured? So I can say it was based off of a certain date, and we're going to apply our date and we can hit save. Now, I also mentioned forms, right? So 2 different things. This form is a riteSCAN specific function where, again, I can capture that additional data for that transaction. So this is like some quality information that I want to collect. Now, it's not a quality system, but it just helps collect that data. So we're going to say the size is going to be 10, the weight is 10, and the color is red. And I can post. And now that information is captured and collected and stored within riteSCAN, so I can go and report against that later. All right. Now what we're going to see as part of this is we're also going to see some color cues, right? To just understand where are we at in this process. If it's green, that's great. We've met our required quantity. If it's white or blank, we haven't touched that line yet. If it's yellow, we're in progress, right? Because you might have different items throughout the truck. And if it's red, then we're over. So we want to be able to have something to identify where are we at in the process. So let's go with our last line here, and we're going to receive that in full. We'll apply our quantity of 50. Again, our bin location, because I'm multiple bin. If you are non-multiple bin, you will not see a bin field. This is just reading directly from your SYSPRO environment and your additional data that you can optionally apply as you need for your business case. So we'll hit save. I'm going to pass on the form on this time, and now we're going to post. So once I hit post, we're going to see a few things, right? Our post successful message appeared at the bottom, which is great. Our GRN, if we're using the GRN system within SYSPRO, our GRN numbers have been generated. So I've got 925 for this purchase order. I can hit OK. So that's an example of that white dialog that we're going to see throughout different transactions. And now next is the label printing, right? So there's two key areas that I always recommend for labels to be printed. And it's anytime you have a material coming into your inventory. So those are PO receipt and job receipt are the two most common areas that labels are being applied to product. So riteSCAN can help facilitate your label printing processes. Now, what riteSCAN is responsible for is collecting the data that is required. So you determine what data elements are important to you from, is it your PO number? Is it your stock code? Is it quantity? Is it location? Is it lot? Is it serial? Is it date? Whatever might be important to you, you can capture. Now, key things that I recommend to have on any given label, depending upon your business case, is your stock code should be barcoded, your lot number should be barcoded if you're lot traceable, and your serial number should be barcoded. So those are some key things to always look at for your different labels that you have. Now I can print all, and I'll get a print successful message down there at the bottom, and I hear my labels being printed out to my label printer out there on the floor. Okay, so that in general is the process for receiving in via riteSCAN. So just keeping us moving here, we're going to go and do some inventory, right? We've received in this product. It's now existing in inventory. Say I used a staging location, right? Based off of the real estate or the size of my facility, I can only put product in so many different places. And what I'm going to do now is, thinking the mobile aspect of this, I'm going to switch this over to my handheld device, which is right here in front of me. This is a Zebra MC9300. It is a common device that you'll see in the SYSPRO space, just due to its ruggability, drop specs, everything else, and all the feature sets that come along with it. So we're going to move to our inventory, right? I need to find out how much of this product that I just received in do we have in the different locations that it exists in. So we're going to look at stock code A112 for a majority. So I'll scan my barcode and we'll select our A112 here. And this is going to display my values, right? So tying back to that visibility and how much inventory and where does it exist within this facility. So I have my different warehouses, whether if they're virtual warehouses or physical warehouses and how you identify them. I can see my on-hand and available quantities here. So just getting a sense of how much do I have. Now, if I need to drill in further, say I am that multiple bin organization, I can select my bin tab and it'll show me my specific warehouse bin combination and how much I have within each given location. So I've got, say, warehouse N, bin N. Right now I've got over 500,000 items on hand and available within that specific location. So what do I need to do? I got to move product out. That's too much. It's not all going to fit there. So just giving me that level of visibility of what we have. So now I need to do a bin transfer. So bin transfer, warehouse transfers, riteSCAN really accommodates for the majority of different transactions under like inventory movements. If you're familiar with SYSPRO, the inventory movement section of that. So I'm going to do a bin transfer here. I'm just going to change a couple settings for us. And I'm going to move product from my staging location to my existing overstock location for this given inventory. So now I physically am going to pick this product up. I'm going to say, where am I pulling it from? What's the stock item that I'm going to be pulling? So now here's that example. As I mentioned, if I get a red warning message or error message at the bottom of the screen, stock code A112 is not found, right? SYSPRO requires capitalization. So if I type in something incorrectly as a user, whether if that's location from a warehouse or bin, a stock code, it's going to flag that and say, hey, that does not exist. You can't use that location or that stock code. That's not found. So it just stops, makes the user think and gather themselves to perform the necessary item. So we're going to select our stock code again. We're going to correctly use the right item. And now I can apply my quantity that I'm going to be moving and the new location that this product is going to exist in. And now I can post. Okay, so here's another example of that warning message, right? riteSCAN's built off of what we call roles. So it's the different roles in the system that give you the flexibility on what a user can and cannot do. And it allows you to assign users to different roles. So you might have administrators, you might have supervisors, you might have operators, and that allows the different level of control of what they can and cannot do. So there's a message here that says there's a stock take in progress for this location. Are you sure you want to continue? Normally, I'd say no, right? If we're counting, we do not want to move inventory from that location because you'll create discrepancies. But for today's scenario, we're going to hit yes, and we're going to live boldly. So I get a post successful message, and we're through with that bin transfer. All right, so we've moved product from one location to the next. Now, the biggest thing with this that I always focus on is physically you do that movement, so systematically you should do that movement because that's where your accuracy is going to come from. If you're doing this via paper and you then systematically move the inventory 4 hours later, you technically had 4 hours of inventory discrepancies. So being mobile with a device like this reduces that discrepancy. So that's just one example of a transfer. Now, of course, you can do your warehouse transfers, your adjustments, expense issues, miscellaneous receipts, all based off of the role that that user is in and what permissions you give them. So for the last module that we're going to focus on today from an inventory is going to be stock takes. Now, stock take is one of those areas that I see the immediate return on investment is your first stock take with riteSCAN. So once inventory is all properly labeled and barcoded, this is going to help with that efficiency, right? We don't want to be shut down for 2 weeks to do our inventory counts based off how much inventory we have. We want to streamline that as much as we can by reducing the paper that's used and the entry that it takes to put all of that data into SYSPRO. So for me as a user within riteSCAN, I'm being told on where the location, where should I go and count? So we're going to apply our warehouse here. We're going to apply the unique bin location that we're going to be counting inventory in. We're starting at one end of the rack and working all the way down to the other. So I'll start with our first stock code, which is going to be that A112 again, and I'm going to apply my quantity. So I've got a quantity of 50 and I can post. Now, I can do one more thing is it's really nice with riteSCAN is taking that thinking out of the user's hands. So we're going to apply our quantity again. Now say I've got 50 items in cases. I've got 50 eaches in each case, and I've got 5 cases. So I can do simple math in this field and post from there, and it did the math to 250. So just making things easier as much as we possibly can. All right, so moving on to work in progress. We've counted our product, we've got inventory, we're ready to do things in production. And that is going to be issue our material for a given job. So that way we can deplete our inventory and build it from there. So we're going to do a specific issue. You have both options in riteSCAN, whether if you're doing a specific issue or a kit issue. So you have both options depending upon your practice. For now, we're going to do just our specific issue. We'll collect our stock code. We're going to scan it, being that it's labeled, apply our quantity that's being issued, and we can post. And again, we're going to get our post successful message, depletes the line and depletes the inventory as we are physically doing it, right? So that's always the key, as you're physically doing that piece. So we'll do one more here, apply our quantity and post. It's going to issue that quantity of 10 and reduce that line item from my list. So now, showing you the opposite side of it, instead of specific issue, let's do a quick kit issue. So we're going to issue the remaining items that are required. We're going to apply our quantity to issue there. Quantity to make is 10. And I can check my material list if I need to. And then I can post. And this will deplete my inventory as necessary. And again, constant feedback. That post successful message is important. Now, the last piece to this from a production side, if we are not tracking labor, which again, you have your options to if you would like to, is we're going to receipt our finished good. So again, we'll take that same job number. We'll apply our quantity that's being receipted, our locations if you are multiple bin, and we can post. Post successful message. Again, here's another area where label printing is important. Anytime you have that inventory that's coming in, apply a label. So I apply my label. Inventory is now put away into its inventory location, and now it's ready to be sold to that customer, which leads us to one of the final areas of today's discussion is the order picking side. Now I'm going to do the simplified method of order picking within riteSCAN today, just due to time, but I'd be happy to show, or Andrew would be happy to show, the different functions that riteSCAN's order picking can provide to you. So I'm going to go to order picking, and we're going to start by just selecting our sales order. Now, riteSCAN's order picking is the most diverse module that they have. It allows to encompass all of the different workflows that SYSPRO provides, whether if you pick out of the ship column, back order column, reserves unallocated. It gives you that flexibility on how do I pick today, because every organization is a little bit different. So we're going to take our sales order number, right? Now I'm going to be picking a status 4 sales order, so it's printed. Right? You printed out your paper document or your paper pick list from SYSPRO. I, as the user, have picked this up. I put a barcode on that document for the sales order number. I take my device, I scan my sales order number to bring it up on screen, which is then going to allow me to facilitate the picking portion within riteSCAN. So as a user, I'm going to go to my different locations to pull my product. As you can see on these little blue pills is suggesting what bin location I should go to fulfill that line. So I'll go through and I'll scan my stock code. Now, when we're again talking accuracy, if I scan a stock code that's not found on this order, it's not going to let me to continue, right? A red error message. So just keeping that thought of, hey, if we're properly scanning everything, we should not be having any sort of missed picks that are going to our customer base today. So I'm going to scan my correct line item. I'll apply my quantity that's required that I'm picking. I'll apply the bin location I'm pulling the product from, and again, a custom form if it's necessary. And we'll hit pick. And again, it filtered out that line item, right? So if I have more than 2, more than 5, more than 10 line items on a sales order, say you're that 20 to 100 line item sales order, I want to filter out those completed lines, making it easier to say, what do I have next? What do I have left that still needs to be picked? So we're going to finally say, okay, our last line item is A102. Again, apply the same information. Where are we pulling it from? Scan our bin location, apply our dim information, say it's 10 times 10 times 10. If you want to collect that info as a custom form, and pick. Now we're going to complete. So completing in riteSCAN allows you to filter out completed sales orders. And one of the cool features, if you want to really automate your SYSPRO processes, is you can move a sales order from, say, a status 4 to a status 8 within SYSPRO, which can help adjust the manual paper workflows of saying, I didn't get the paper document. How am I going to invoice for this order? Now in SYSPRO, you could go through and say, I'm going to just create a report for my different status 8 sales orders to help facilitate the accounting process of these are all the items that are ready to be invoiced, and you can go through and invoice them if they're in status 8. So just facilitating how is riteSCAN and SYSPRO ultimately working together to change that data, making you more accurate and more efficient. Now, the last thing I have to say to this is the reporting aspect, right? So we're talking, visibility. How do we view what are all these users doing? So you have a very cool tool within riteSCAN itself is the ability to create certain reports. So reports could be anything. Do you want to collect the information against your stock take? Is it sales orders that were picked today? Is it the amount of time spent against a sales order? Really anything that you see is important that's tied to a transaction, you can report against. So here's just a few examples of reports that I've created over the past few years. Is sales order time. I want to understand how much time is spent against a given sales order. So I know what's the discrepancies, what's the variance, why did this sales order take so much longer than this one? Is it the product? Is it the person? Is it the location? Is it the amount of lines that were on that order? All those different things. Materials issued today, jobs receipted, POs receipted today. All of that information is important to me from a management aspect to know how efficient is my workforce. So if I do drill into a report, I'll run it, and you can do a lot of grouping, filtering to get to the overall data that you need, but it just allows you to view, all right, 0.08 versus 0.03. Why did this one take so much longer than this sales order, right? Just those things that it allows you to ask yourself to dig into further. Now, the last thing that you can do with all these reports is export them to Excel and send to anybody within the organization that's not within riteSCAN. So sharing that data, that's important to our organization overall. So how can we share it across that company? So those are some of the key areas that we ultimately see in riteSCAN as being, extremely beneficial to any organization, but that's not it. I mean, there's plenty. So again, if you are interested in seeing more of this, contact Andrew and he's going to get you squared away with seeing, hey, what functions are you looking for? What's the goals within your organization, and how can these tools help you get to those goals? All right. Now with that opens it up for a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A in Teams to ask any questions, and we'll be able to provide you with any answers as we go today. So just feel free, let us know any questions that you have, and you can put them in that Q&A chat.
Thanks, Garrett. I think that was very, very useful. There's certainly some really good features there, and I know that was a quick demo, but I think everybody could probably see there that there's a huge amount of functionality and features within riteSCAN. So yeah, absolutely. As you said there, if anybody has any questions, I'm hoping the Q&A functionality is working. If it's not, feel free to raise your hand, and we can do it the traditional way of asking by voice.
Don't be shy, guys. If there's anything, feel free to ask.
I guess question from me actually. Can riteSCAN scan serial numbers so that you can get to the history of that serial?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do a variety of different searches, especially if you're like in your stock items query. You can scan your stock code, your warehouse, really whatever within that to get to your overall data. So absolutely. Or just for any transaction as well, you can scan your serial number if it's required to perform it.
Okay, fantastic. And one other thing, you were talking earlier in the presentation about pallet tracking or license plating. So if you've been sending out various different pallets to different customers, are you able to then look up which pallets have gone to which customers?
Actually, you can, not necessarily the customer name itself, but it's all tied to the sales order. So it brings it back to the sales order data. So as long as you have your sales order number, you can go into SYSPRO and view, okay, here's that sales order number. Here was the customer that's associated. So those palettes do a great job of tying everything back into one key piece of data or one screen to see all the data. And it's not just the sales order number, which is cool. It's the purchase order number, it's the GRN number, it's the job number that it's been built with, or the sales order number. So giving you all the data points that you need to trace it back from start to finish. And the history too. Like there's history against the palette to see what users pulled product from it, what users brought product onto it as well.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, we've got someone coming back in. So I've just seen Sarah's just asked a question about the recording for this session, when it will be available. It will be available literally within a few minutes of the webinar ending, just as quickly as Teams processes it. So that will be available for you to download. But obviously, if anybody has any issues with downloading it, please feel free to reach out to me, send me an email, and I can forward you a copy of it. It's not an issue at all. Okay, any other questions from anybody? Oh, there's another one from Sarah, actually. So Sarah's asked, do the scanners require a separate Wi-Fi network for security?
To my knowledge, no. It is dependent upon your infrastructure and what your IT does recommend, but no, most of the time it's just under one wireless network if you have that out in your facility.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for those questions, Sarah. That was very, very helpful. I'm not seeing any other questions, but I'll just give it a little longer just in case anybody has anything. Feel free to take yourselves off of mute if you want to ask a question in person. No, I think that might be it. I think, Garrett, you've done a fantastic job of demonstrating the product to us, which means that we don't have too many questions. Oh, one's just come in as I said that. So Justin's just asked, does RiteTime have geolocation functionality for the like of workers on the road doing repairs and such like at client sites?
There is actual geolocation, so you can see within RiteTime itself of where they're doing their punches. So if you do want to, or have a sneaking suspicion that they are clocking in from the hotel versus the job site, which is something that we have seen, is there is the geolocation that'll track where that punch was, which allows management to report against where did they do that actual punch at for further, analysis, and if there's reprimandation that needs to happen, there's all those functions. So yes, and there's certain geofencing as well. So if you said, hey, this is my manufacturing location, here is the fence that they can, if they're GPS within that location, that's where they can do their punch. So quite flexible in capturing that information and making it available for reporting.
Okay, brilliant. Another question's just come in. Can riteSCAN link to courier software such as DPD and things like that for their shipping labels?
At this time, I'm not familiar with DPD itself, but there is an open API within riteSCAN, within this latest version of riteSCAN. So that is the first thing to look at, of how can you pull and push data if you are on the technical aspects of it. Pull and push data within that API to say, I need the sales order information from it. That would be the first place that I would recommend that you look. But again, we're still looking into 2024 and beyond of creating those integrations for shipping solutions and providing all the necessary data that's required. It's a great question also.
Great question. Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions now, and we are almost dead on time, which is fantastic. Well done, Garrett. So that brings us to the end of our webinar, and I'd like to say thank you to everyone for attending and participating in the session. It's been really, really useful. I'd like to thank Garrett from RiteSoft for his contributions, especially as he had to step in at the last minute and cover for Ryan as well. Yeah, thanks Garrett. It's been very, very, very good. Great to hear from you as well. Finally, if anyone is interested in learning more about riteSCAN, whether you're an existing customer or you may be looking to move to the latest version, or if you're not yet using riteSCAN and you'd like to look at what an implementation might look like, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are there on the screen. You can reach out to either RiteSoft or ourselves at HIT Technology. We'd be delighted to talk to you further about that. So that brings it to an end. Once again, thank you for attending, and I wish you all a very pleasant rest of your day. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you.